Om Om Sadashiva Shankaracharya Madhyama Asmadacharya Paryanta Vande Guru Parampara Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Saviryam Karavavahe तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहे ओम शांति 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 श्री भगवान उवाच ऊर्ध्वमूलमधः शाखम् अश्वत्थं प्राहुरव्ययम् छन्दांसि यस्य पर्णानि यस्तं वेद स वेदवित् अधश्च ऊर्ध्वं प्रसुतास्तस्य शाखा गुणः प्रबुद्धा विषयप्रवालाः अधश्च मूलाननुसन्ततानि कर्मानुबन्धीनि मनुष्यलोके न रूपमस्येह तथोपलभ्यते नान्तो न चार्दि न च सम्प्रतिष्ठा अश्वत्थमेनं सुविरूढमूलम् असङ्गशस्त्रेण दृढेन चित्वा Very good. So I hope something is entering or something has entered. If nothing has entered, don't worry. Okay. However, so as we have been discussing very carefully, that this chapter being Purushottama Yoga, mainly Nirguna Brahma Yoga. So it talked very carefully, especially 2.5 verses. So 2 plus half up to 3, let us say, talked about samsara swarupa through the description of a tree. So we have seen in details. So what was the purpose of highlighting or discussing about samsara vriksha? So that the person understands where the person lives, how difficult, how painful is it. So once the person understands this, then what happens? Definitely the person will start working to grow out of samsara nivruti. So samsara nivruti becomes moksha prapti. So this to happen, we need sadhanas. In different occasions, differently, we have talked sadhanas. Here also, in this chapter, in a unique way, tries to talk about 4 types of sadhanas. So don't say 4 types of sadhanas here, sadhana chatushtayamiti, okay? Somehow or other, yes. But here it puts very differently, very nicely to understand. So first thing he tries to say, let us look at this verse number 3, whatever. Aswatthaменam suvirunamulam asanga sastrena drudhena chitva. So the person has to chitva. So that means one should cut. So what one should cut? So one should cut this well-rooted. So suvirudha mulam. So what is well-rooted? You don't have to work with this taproot, because the taproot of the samsara is what? Taproot of the samsara is the Ishvara. I hope you remember, okay? So we were talking about secondary roots. So all our secondary roots is what? Come on. Nothing is entering, eh? Raga, Dvesha, Vishaya Pravala. I think I have to start again from the verse number 1 onwards. Okay. So now what happened is this, which is Subirudha Moolam, this is well rooted, well established. And we need to cut. What he says, how? He uses the word Asanga Sastrena. So Asanga Sastrena means the weapon of detachment. So with the help of detachment. Now through this, now God, Lord Krishna introduces one discipline that is called here, one sadhana is called here Vairagya. So what do you mean by this Vairagyam and why does he introduces this in this way? Because generally, if you look at a common person depends upon this world, this universe. So when you start depending upon this world, that which keeps changing, now definitely your raga and dvesha will not be taken care. Impossible. Then in the process, you become vulnerable. So that means dependence on the world makes a person vulnerable. Is it clear? Suppose you can see for yourself, there is a raga. So raga means, desire, okay, liking. So raga, what will be? Prabhuti rupena. It is a prabhuti rupa. Prabhuti rupena, by in the form of prabhuti, engaging yourself in the activities. Now, when you start engaging yourself in activities, until and unless the raga, your likes, is being addressed, is being fulfilled, can you keep quiet? Impossible. Suppose it is being fulfilled, for time being, it will be satisfaction, okay? Appa, I achieved. Then along with that comes all problems, you know better, like marriage, okay? The day, suppose you are not getting married, you difficulties, and somehow you manage to marry, okay? Appa, as though you achieved the success. You will celebrate, but you cannot really cherish. Then after 1 day, 1 month, 2 months, that's why in Tamil Nadu what they say, huh? Mogam asai, okay? So that is a period, okay? So after that period, what happens? You know better. So here, when we talks about this raga, so definitely this raga dvesha, which makes us to depend upon this universe. In the process, a person becomes vulnerable, person feels more insecure. So here, Lord Krishna says, hey, look, depending upon universe or samsara, okay, not your samsara, okay, don't look at this word at all, okay, depending upon the entire samsara, be careful. So don't you say, Swamiji, from today onwards, I will not depend upon Tamil samsara, okay? Then you will go crazy. Better depend upon Tamil samsara, okay? I am coming this point. So depending upon samsara, definitely you are vulnerable. There is no choice. So that's why in the previous verses it was being taught that who is the Srishtikarta of the samsara? So Ishvara becomes Srishtikarta. The God becomes the creator of the samsara that we have discussed. that was called taproot of the samsara vriksha. Now what I need to do, instead of depending upon universe, let me shift the dependence from samsara to God, the Ishvara. Is it clear? It's a very simple way of looking at this. We say from samsara dependence to God dependence is called vairagyam here, detachment. Because once you start depending upon who Ishvara, why? Because in the beginning we have discussed that the God is the creator, that's why taproot. So God becomes a paroksha vastu for us, remote. So that's why we say very carefully, from samsara dependence to God dependence. Then later on, as we'll start seeing that Ishvara is none other than me, I am the Brahman, I am the Paramatma, then becomes what? From God dependence becomes self-dependence. So there is a nice, graph from samsara dependence to God dependence, again from God dependence to self-dependence. But generally, present day, what do? From samsara dependence to self-dependence, and they call that as independence. Actually, self-dependence is called independence. There is no doubt in it. But it should happen in which way? From samsara dependence to God dependence, from God dependence to self-dependence. Because the person understands that God is none other than me, the self. Whereas when a person from universe dependence or samsara dependence to jumps to self-dependence, there what happens? The person becomes super duper arrogant, confused, and all these things. It never helps. And in the West, especially, what they do is from samsara dependence, they will become psychiatrist, psychologist, or tablet dependence. And from that, slowly they will boost the ego of the person. Then you become self-dependence. There, what happens in the process? You can look at any psychologist or psychiatrist. They are smart. Please understand very carefully. You have to understand. There is something called, we use the word smart, means you have intellect. Being an intellectual, definitely you have to be sharp. There is no doubt in it. But we use the word very carefully. That being intellect and having sharp intellect, there is a difference. Having intellect is one thing. Having sharp intellect is quite different thing altogether. So when you say having sharp intellect means what? Your intellect works right timely in a right way. Oh, sharply you used. Correctly you used. So that's why we say the sharp intellect will take place that moment when there is no raga dvesha, when universal dependence jumps to God dependence, again from God dependence, it comes to self-dependence. Or else what will happen if the person from universe to jump to self, definitely will be intellectual, but will not have sharp intellect, means lack of grace. Is it clear? Because you may do anything and everything. You can put effort after effort. You will be only tired and frustrated. Like we say, without knowing the purpose, you keep working. What will happen? And especially, we know very well, this is what life is. In our childhood, we had seen, now it's missing in India. Those days, especially in summer, this snake charmer, they come to villages. Very nice thing to observe. But every snake charmer will come with a monkey, definitely. So one monkey also will be there with them. Do you know why? Because for children, snake is not important. For children, monkey is important. If the child does not come, the fellow will not get his money, okay? Because more children, so other people are forced to come. So for monkey's sake, children will come. And that monkey always will create nuisance. Monkey cannot be restful, should not be also. Now what happens? This fellow, when he starts playing with the snake, monkey will not keep quiet. Will do something or other. If nothing happens, pull somebody, then big nuisance, and sometimes will come to play with the snake. A lot of nuisance happens. So what this fellow will do, very nicely, will hand over one stick to the monkey and ask, hey, go around. And monkey puts the stick in the shoulder and nicely keeps walking. And children are, engaged. This fellow is also engaged, makes the snake to play and earn some money. So here, if you understand how that fellow engages monkey just for the engagement sake, but result is different. So also, when the person starts shifting the dependence from the universe to self without going properly through Ishwaraha, it becomes life of a monkey. You are engaged for nothing. How? After this, he says, look, once you start looking at, then only you will discover that you will not be a vulnerable person. Because why? Because vulnerability comes from dependence. Wherever, with whomsoever you are dependent, you are vulnerable with reference to that. Whereas when you start depending upon Ishwaraha, that is being taken care. Continuing, so that we'll see other three in this way. Tatah padam tat parimargitavyam. Tatah padam tat parimargitavyam. Yasmin gata nan nivartanti bhuyah. Tameva chadyam purusham prapadye. Yatah pravritti prasuta purani. So if we try to look at Tataha thereafter, we'll see this as it is. Tat padam, that goal, parimargitavyam. So parimargitavyam is another, here is qualification, which we'll see very carefully later on. To be properly inquired into. Gataha asmin, reaching which, non-nivartanti, they do not return. Bhuyah again, prapadye, I surrender. So now we use this very carefully. So what the second one we look at is that surrender. I surrender. So first one was called Vairagya. Second qualification is what? Called Saranagati. So the person has to, take self-talk. Because unless and until you learn to surrender, there will be no, remember, Ishvara Anugraha. We say very carefully, Ishvara Anugraha means God's blessing. We say very carefully, as long as I am predominant in my life, every time I can do, I do this, I, me, so arrogant. Then what does it mean? Nobody can enter in my life. That's why you can see all the arrogant people, they live alone. Because nobody likes to live with one arrogant person. Remember, sometimes it is better to live with a uneducated, stupid fellow. Uneducated and stupid, okay? Absolutely no problem. But it is very difficult to live with a so-called educated and arrogant. It's very difficult. That's why in present day, why people are, both men and women are single. Not that they are matured, not that they don't, they have grown out of dependence. No, oh, all are self-dependence. No, please understand. Oh, we are independent. I don't depend upon anybody, anything. God said, don't cheat yourself. Most of them, I cannot say all of them, most of them is what? Arrogant. And because of arrogance, nobody wants to live with them. But they portray in such a way, we are independent. It's total lie. And you cannot think of. And now there is a trend going on, especially all over the world. How to become independent means how to become arrogant. The trend going on. So which is very dangerous. And this trend is more predominant, especially with women. I want to be independent. Okay, financially you can be independent. Nothing wrong in it. Nowadays also socially you don't care. Socially you can be independent. Hey, please learn to be independent emotionally. We are talking about that independence. You don't have strength to become independent emotionally, but you want to be independent every way. That is what is dangerous. We are talking about it. So that's why we need to have what? This is Saranagati. Then after Saranagati, third one we highlight is called that Sadguna, which we have discussed in 13th chapter. So we need to have some virtues. Because if there are no virtues, definitely mind will not be available for the next sadhana. So virtues must, what we call as developing healthy virtues. That's why, especially in Indian context, I can say, all the samskaras were being done. Starting from Garbhadhana, Punshavana Garbhadhana continues. Because through that, the person starts developing certain virtues. And of course, in 13th chapter, we have discussed in detail regarding virtues. So when this virtues comes, then only what? The fourth sadhana comes, Parimargitavyam, Vedanta Vichara. So Vedanta Vichara means inquiring into Vedanta, studying Vedanta. If you look at especially any religious context, First three are being highlighted. Vairagya, Saranagati, and Sadguna. These three are highlighted. But the fourth one, Vedanta Vichara, somehow is not being highlighted. Especially in Vishishtadvaita. Saranagati is a very big thing. And of course, Dvaita also talks Saranagati a lot. Whereas Vedanta Vichara don't ask. And that too, Vedanta Vichara to be done systematically. Not randomly attending this class, that class, something here and there, it doesn't work. In fact, that confuses much more. That's why you can see if anybody has studied Vedanta under Acharya systematically, you can see that person's thinking is entirely different, provided if sadgunas are there. Can you see this point? Somehow, everybody has got some type of vairagya. At least if nothing happens, some disease happens somewhere, or you didn't like your, antaru, kantaru. That six type of, people become sannyasi. Okay, you remember this or not? Shall I bring once more? Okay, I don't know what I'm doing today. Okay, I'm diverting myself. Sorry. This is one of my friend was very nicely when we are talking, studying, he used to say, Odia and Sanskrit, he put two things, okay? Antaru, Kantaru, in Odia I'm putting, sorry, Antaru, Kantaru, Maipa, Marivaru, Paitika, Nopaivaru, Rogi, Ragi, Sadhete Vairagi, Sanskrit, okay? It is in Sanskrit, okay? So these are the six types of Vairagis. So one is Antaru, so deep within, very rare. This is Sadguna Sampanna Vyakti. So all gunas are there. Samadhi Shatka Sampati there. So they are really great, no doubt in it. Second type of Kantaru, related to marriage. Okay? I could not get married. Something happened. So what to do? That's why there is one huge organization in India. Huge. They have painted white. So in Tamil Nadu, there is a group painted red to everybody. So in another one, Indian organization that they have painted white to everybody. Okay. And all of them belong to what? Related to marriage. Especially ladies, they could not get married, so they end up in that organization. And interesting, let me say, so all the brothers and no, you can get married after getting into our organization. You can get married. So after marriage, wife and husband must live like brother and sister. So this is their philosophy. Okay, it's fantastic. Nothing wrong. It is good. Wish them all the best. So this is called, Kantaru, Antaru Kantaru, Paitika no Paivaru means I did not get job. So what to do? Now let me become a Swami. So best thing is let me go to Rishikesh or Haridwar. Then I become sannyasi. But nothing happens when Kumbha happens. So casual in Kumbha, mass sannyasi is being given. So I can go and sit in on the queue. That's all. So I get a sannyasa. That's not a problem at all. So Paitika no Paivaru, Rogi Ragi. So the person is having some disease, not curable. Maybe sometimes, this astrologer will say, this is incurable. What you do, take sannyasa, you will be cured. Because that becomes new life. It works. That's why we have apat sannyasa also. So Rogi, that person also takes sannyasa. Then Ragi, out of anger. Something happened in the home, something happened in the job, something happened somewhere. I don't want to see your face. I am going. Works out. Then Rogi, Ragi, correct. Rogi, Ragi, Sadhete Vairagi. So these are the six people becomes Vairagi. Remember, we are not talking about them at all here. That's why Shadguna is the most important aspect here. Sadguna, not Sadguna. Shadgunas, that means all the virtues. Or you can say Samadhi Satka Sampati. Both way, it is okay. Then only Vedanta Vichara will happen. Or else definitely Vedanta Vichara will not happen systematically. And remember, if the Vedanta Vichara does not happen systematically, what is the loss will happen is, you will discover that you will know everything, at the same time you will not know. That is the serious thing happens. Because everywhere you gloss over. And why and how, I can tell you from my personal experience. Especially when we learn chanting. I notice myself till now. While learning chanting, especially Vedic chanting, if any suttas, anywhere one line, while learning time you have, picked up wrongly. So that time saying, yeah, it will come in due course of time. I'm not telling you jokes. Right time, the wrong pronunciation or wrong way of chanting will come out. It can never be corrected. And always there will be a doubt. Even if you try to, consciously correct it. So some doubt happens. Always there will be a doubt with them. Oh, there is Udata or Anudata. You understand? Always there will be a confusion. I'm not telling you jokes. Because you have not picked up properly from the beginning. That's why when children are taught this Vedic chanting, why they follow strictly? Because of this region, not for anything else. So, however, let us not get into that. So, this Sadgunas or Samadhi Satka Sampati becomes most important factor for Vedanta Vichara. Let us look at how. So he says, look, Tameva Chadyam. So Tameva Chadyam Purusham Prapadde. So that means what? So Tam Eva. So it is you, not anything else. To that primal God. So that means what? I surrender. So that means what? I am not anybody's devotee. I am not devoted to anybody, but I am devoted to the Lord. So that means what? This Ishvara Bhakti makes my intellect secondary. So when the intellect becomes secondary, means I never completely depend upon my intellect. Then only my intellect becomes sharp. See this point very carefully. When you depend upon your intellect all the time, your intellect becomes gross and you are called what? Intellectual arrogant. Whereas, when you have devotion to the Lord because of Saranagati, now the intellect is under check and balance. So you don't depend completely on intellect because you know there is X factor. So when you know that there is X factor, because many people learn, many people like, this is what intellectuals, how I want to, this is English saying we have now. Yes, you can take the horse to the water, but the horse itself has to drink the water. You cannot make the horse to drink the water. You can take near to the water body, but you cannot make it to drink. The horse itself has to drink. So this is called intellectual thinking. They learn in a very bitter way. That's why always their frustration comes to the forefront. Remember this point. Any intellectuals, any arrogant person, the frustration always will come to forefront. Anything with frustration. Whereas a Saranagati person, a devotee, anything and everything comes with a smile, with a humility. Can you see this point? This is the difference. That's why it is better to deal with a person who is a devotee. who is not exposed to the Vedanta at all, it's better to deal with that person. Somebody comes and says, Prabhuji, Namaste, I love that person. Then, Atman, Brahman, and that too I studied Vedanta, okay, for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. Appa. So that's why what we need to do here is that I must look at this Ishvara is my shelter. So when I surrender to that primal God, and why I do that? Purani Prasuti Yataha, from whom the whole creation has emerged. So that's why in the process, not only I depend upon or I surrender to the God, also I learn how to express my gratitude. Then only what will happen, we will be seeing in the next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purna Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, all of you.